Let's see if I can get through this video without mentioning Rolex. Hi everyone and welcome to Shaluso, and yes, today we are talking about the recently discontinued Tudor Black Bay 41 with the Black Bezel. Now this was replaced in 2024 after being on the market since 2016. The notable change of course was that the new version doesn't have the gilt styling. And this is a huge departure for Tudor because that has been really emblematic of the Black Bay line, and it shows Tudor stepping out of this heritage mindset and more into the modern mindset. So it means that the previous generation really is sort of the end of an era. Now this all started back in 2012 when Tudor introduced the Black Bay. It was a heritage-inspired model inspired by older Tudor models, which took their design inspiration from the same company that used to make their cases. First they introduced the Black Bay with a nice reddish burgundy bezel and with the smiley dial, and of course an ETA 2824 on the inside. They didn't actually introduce a black bezel variation of this until 2015. The next year after that, in 2016, they introduced the model we're looking at today, which is the 79230N. This is the same model as the Tudor Black Bay Harrods that I reviewed a few weeks ago, and it was the most popular variation of the Black Bay 41. At the 12 o'clock, it featured a red triangle and it had this gilt styling along the minute track, giving it a very vintage feel and vibe. The bracelet featured the controversial faux rivet design. It didn't have a micro adjust. Apart from that, it was the same as the other Black Bays introduced at the same time. So 41 millimeters, 14.7 millimeters thick, so a little bit on the thicker side, 200 meters of water resistance, and one of the best bezel actions of any watch. This is something I have to highlight before I get into the rest, because this is something I think is definitely underrated because it feels so mechanical. It's only 60 clicks, not 120, so you get right into the minute markers on each click. And it's just such a satisfying way to interact with a watch. The big evolution for this generation was that on the inside it featured Tudor's manufacturer caliber, the MT5602. This was Tudor's movement with a 70-hour power reserve, a silicone hairspring, and a COSC certification. And it's important to remember that the Submariner at the same time only had 48 hours of power reserve. So at the time, the Tudor was actually the one with the more advanced movement. The trade-off, of course, is that the movement is thicker compared to the ETA variation, so therefore it made the overall watch thicker, and this kind of limited the appeal of the Black Bay to a certain degree. While yes, the thickness can be aggravating in some cases, but I have to say, having tested out a lot of Tudor's models from this era where they all were pretty thick, when it's the 41 millimeter with this, aesthetically it does still work. It doesn't look like a thick watch. Where you notice the thickness is of course if you're thinking about things like jacket and shirt cuffs, and if you wear a NATO it can make the watch quite top heavy. This is something that they remedied with the newer model, which still features the same movement, just Meta certified, and they pushed the movement itself a little bit higher within the case of the watch, and they lost about a millimeter of thickness on the case back side. But in terms of wearability, especially as a daily watch, the thickness really doesn't impact this watch at all. It still looks great on the wrist, feels great, and is incredibly well built. But bringing it back to why this is the end of an era, it's because this was the last black bezel version that still featured the gilt styling. As offshoots of the Black Bay range have been introduced, such as the Black Bay 58, the black version is always the one that features the gilt styling. In that case, it was the blue version that went without it. So this departure that Tudor has done has shown that they're ready to move out of that heritage side of it. Meanwhile, this one is emblematic of what was Tudor's renaissance. It is the Black Bay that really brought about Tudor's resurgence, and it was this generation in particular that had the in-house movement, still with the heritage looks, that really cemented Tudor's product offering. As a brand that offered heritage-inspired models with manufacturer movements on the inside, good specifications in terms of water resistance, and amazing value when you compare it to other watches on the market. With this new direction that Tudor is taking, it means that Tudor is ready to move beyond that, but I think it's always important to remember the game changers. While yes, it was the heritage chrono that introduced this idea and then it was carried on to the Black Bay, this was definitely the era in Tudor's history where they made their mark and stayed. It spawned so many offshoots after that 2016 model. Things like the Black Bay 58, the Black Bay GMT, the Black Bay Pro, these all owe their existence to that original Black Bay with the manufacturer movement on the inside. And that makes this one of the most significant watches in the brand's history. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the second generation Tudor Black Bay? Do you think it was really the watch that cemented Tudor's legacy, or are there other watches that maybe pushed it along even further? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, if you like this video, then make sure you like it and share it. If you want to see more pictures of watches, then make sure you follow me on Instagram at Shaluso. If you want to see more videos of watches, you can subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell as well so you know when the next video comes out. And for more Tudor content, make sure you check out my Tudor playlist so you can see my other reviews of this amazing watch manufacturer. But thanks for joining me on this quick exploration of what, in my opinion at least, is the defining Tudor Black Bay. And we'll catch you on the next video.